Welcome to Screams from the Center. In this broadcast, I hope to provide you with information on topics I find interesting and give my take on it. Today we have breaking news again. The Supreme Court has come down with another decision. This time it is concerning the EPA and some regulations that the Obama administration wanted to impose concerning mercury levels and other toxic chemicals that are constantly spewed out from coal-fired plants. So, as is typically predictable, the Supreme Court ruled 5-4. That would be, and I didn't actually read who is in the for and against, but it's pretty easy. It's going to be Scalia, Thomas, Alito, Roberts, and Kennedy. They're the ones who are going to be for the rule that the EPA overstepped its boundaries. So, basically, this is in regards to a lower court decision that the EPA has gone too far in the Clean Air Act, and without considering the cost to those poor, strapped billionaires, that they can't impose a rule. Whether it has anything to do with safety or health, they have to consider cost. Okay, fine. The decision didn't say that the EPA couldn't initiate those rules. They just said that they need to be aware of the cost to those poor billionaires. So the Clean Air required the regulation to be appropriate and necessary. Challengers said the agency ran afoul of the law, deciding that to regulate the emissions without first undertaking a cost-benefit analysis. Justice Scalia wrote that it's not rational, never mind appropriate, to impose billions of dollars of economic cost in return for a few dollars of health and environmental benefits. Now, I take argument with that because we're not talking about a few dollars in health benefits. Coal and other types of fossil fuels amount to huge numbers in related health stories. And unless you throw climate change out, which even if you do throw climate change out, the pollutant cost in the environment also stack up into the billions of dollars. So it's a jaded comment, but it's not something we don't expect from Scalia. I mean, this is a guy who believes that the devil is real and is influencing things. So who are we kidding when he writes things like that? Now, the EPA argued that it was not required to take cost into account when it makes its initial determination to regulate. The agency added that it had done so later in setting emission standards, and that in any event, the benefits outweigh the cost, which I happen to agree. Long-term benefits, and now keep in mind, these corporations and billionaires, they're thinking 2 to 5 years down the road. The EPA is thinking 20, 40, 75, 100 years down the road. So while you have something that's going to cost more, and I've been getting into this with this conservative that I argue with who lacks basic math skills, that the cost increase of your power as a result of regulations or converting over to solar are short-term problems. That in the long term, the aggregate cost will go down and there will be other benefits which we can reap as a result of this regulation and switching over to other types of fuels. Now, industry groups say that the government imposing those rules would cost $9.6 billion to achieve $6 million in benefits. That's a total exaggeration. That's okay. I mean, we could sit here and look at the numbers and dig down deep into it. But again, they're looking at things probably at the most 5, maybe 10 years down the road. And it's quite possible that these benefits versus the cost are close to that number. In the next 10 years, it may only cost $6 million to take care of the damages done by these effects. But that could jump as time goes on. What about 25 years from now? Maybe it's going to cost $5 billion. Now, I argue again, I think that $6 million is rather low. But even if it was $6 billion, we're still, again, looking at long-term versus short-term. Now, this decision is based on a Michigan versus Environmental Protection Agency number 14-46. It doesn't strike down the rule, but it does mean that the EPA has to review and rewrite it. They have to take the cost into consideration. Industries will be expected to comply with the current rule until a revised one is issued. So basically, they're saying that the EPA needs to do more homework. It's not that they can't impose these types of regulations. It's just that they have to show more of a clear cost-benefit analysis. I don't entirely disagree with this premise. I do think that the conservative justices of the Supreme Court took the industry numbers to heart much more than the aggregate balance of those types of figures. So yeah, I mean, $9.6 billion versus $6 million, that seems ridiculous. Whether there's any truth to that or not, I don't know yet. I suspect that these projections go out a certain amount of time. The industry probably did it for 5 to 10 years, and the EPA is thinking more like 25, 50, 75, 100 years down the road. So that is the decision today. The Supreme Court has decided that the EPA rule is not struck down. They just have to re-review it and relitigate it. That's all for this episode. I'm hoping you got a bit of information out of this and enjoyed it. Let me know what you think in the comments below. You can find me on Screams from the Center on Facebook. You can find me at Screams FT Center on Twitter. And I'm on Google+, linked through here on YouTube. I'll get more out as fast as possible, and thank you for joining. Goodbye.